You're listening to She's the Business podcast. On a scale of 1 to 10, how big a priority is your health to you right now? If you're anything like me, it's probably close to a 10, right? Of course it should be. It is your health. But now I want to ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a priority are you making your health right now in your life? And well, if we're all humans, we've probably got lots of conflicting priorities in our life. You know, we've got a business to run, we've got family, we've got friends, we've got kids, we've got all of these things that are competing with our time for, our priorities. And it can be really, really hard to make time for your health. So today's episode is diving into this really important topic because you're the golden goose that lays the egg for your business. And looking after yourself is super important, not only for yourself and your life, but for your loved ones and even for your business success too. So please stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. Today, I've invited onto the podcast to talk to us all about health and how we can make it a priority and succeed with it as busy online business owners. None other than the beautiful Kayla Radliff. Now, Kayla has been one of my clients. We've been working together for about a year, and it's been amazing to see what she's been able to do in her online business. And there's no one really better suited to having this discussion with you because Kayla is a health, fitness, and body mind expert. She knows all about incorporating exercise, nutrition, stress, sleep, all of the things that help us to have a healthy body, healthy mind, feel good, look great, all of those wonderful things. And she also deeply understands the challenges we have as online business owners in how we make this a priority when time is so scarce. There's always more things that we want to be doing with our time. There's always more demands on our time than we ever have time for, right? So without further ado, let me play this interview for you and make sure you listen out right to the end because Kayla has something really special to share with you, a way that you can even get more than what she shares here today, more than the 4 key tips on how you get your health back on track, or maybe make it more of a priority, how you can get that success. So stay tuned right to the end so that you don't miss that one. Okay, and hello and welcome. I'm here with Kayla Radliff, and she is an amazing person that I've had the pleasure of knowing for about a year, I think, Kayla. Welcome, and welcome to the podcast. So happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Jess. It's a pleasure, and it's always a pleasure chatting with you. I always enjoy our conversations.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for having me. Yeah,
amazing. And we're going to dive into the topic today of, really making time for health as a business owner, which I think is so important. As we always say, healthy body, healthy mind, and our minds are obviously super important for us as business owners. So health is a big value of mine. And I think this is a really great conversation to have because a lot of us struggle with it. But before we get into that, would you mind telling us a little bit about exactly what you do in your business, who you help, and a little bit about that.
Of course. So I am 30 years old and I own an online business called Fitfilled. And we help women over 30 to look and feel their absolute best through health, fitness, and nutrition coaching. I actually own this business with my stepfather, whose name is Vin, which is awesome. It's so cool to, have him by my side through all of this. So we started this business back in 2018, And we really started it as like a side gig. We both had our full-time jobs at the time, and we really just, we kind of wanted to just start it up, see how it went, make some extra money on the side helping people. And, so I was working full-time as a personal trainer at a private fitness studio. And Vin was actually working as a research analyst for an actually a pretty well-known physician. If anyone listens to his podcast, his name is Peter Attia. But anyways, so, we were working off our full-time jobs, and we were kind of just like, it was getting to a point where this business was growing enough to, we kind of like looked at each other, we're like, should we just go full in on this? Like, and like, it's something that we both always have wanted to do. And just to have that freedom of, owning your own business, making your own hours, working from home has been a dream of ours. So we decided to quit our full-time jobs and go all in. We've been doing that ever since, and we absolutely love it.
Oh, amazing. And I think this is so great because you're literally living and breathing exactly this topic of our episode today. Like, making your health a priority as a business owner. You are a business owner. You're running your business. You're working from home. You've got all those priorities, but you're also very much in that space of health and wellness and fitness. And what are some of the common traps, I might call it, or pitfalls that we business owners may experience? And, when we all know that health is important. Like, I don't think anyone listening would say, oh, my health's not important at all, but we all know it is. But I'm guessing a lot of us aren't prioritizing it that much, or sometimes, not as much as what we should be. So what do you think are the reasons why? Like, what do you see us doing? I'm talking us as the collective here, but
Right.
what are some of those common things that you see in your clients and people
Right.
who help?
And there's a lot of, different things for different people, but I think the biggest thing that I deal with our clients is really just people not having the time. Typically as a business owner, you can kind of allow the business to really consume you. And to be honest, it's something that Vin and I both struggle with too. Even owning a health and fitness business, it's like, we have to allow ourselves to also be like, okay, like I need to just, set this aside. I need to set time for myself. And it's easier said than done to set those boundaries and really, be like, okay, like I can easily tell myself, all right, I'm going to do a workout at 10 a.m. today. And then 10 a.m. rolls around and you're like, well, I'm in the middle of a project. So, I'm going to wait till the end when I'm finished with my project. And then, 11 a.m. rolls around and you're doing another project. And then it just kind of like keeps
and then
going.
You're hungry and it's like, no, have lunch.
Exactly. So then lunch rolls around and you're like, well, I got to eat lunch. And then next thing you know, I mean, I don't have kids, but, for the business owners who have kids, it's like, the kids are getting off the bus, or I got to go get the kids off the bus, and then they have their sports, and then next thing you know, the day's over. So
and it's like you're exhausted.
Exactly. And then by that time, people are typically, they're very exhausted. They don't even want to cook dinner, and they still have to do all that and then get the kids ready for bed. But what it really comes down to is just prioritizing your time and really, making the time for yourself. It's so important. And a lot of times too, especially for people who work from home, is they're sitting a lot all day. And, that's like one of the worst things for our bodies. And it's so important to, make that time kind of like chunks throughout the day where you're able to get up, move around, and not just be sitting still the whole day and, grabbing quick snacks and eating at your desk and stuff like that. So,
It's so funny because, obviously I work at home as well. And I started paying attention to this year. I think probably because, having so many chats with you and Vin, and I really became a lot more aware of what I was doing. And I thought, I'm walking from my bed to the other parts of the house, to the fridge, back to my office. There's not a lot of steps happening unless I'm going to the school and I'll park further away and walk in and do things like that. But you've got to intentionally kind of make that time or actually make time to move, even if it's get up and walk around the block every now and then. But I realized that it can be really hard to hit 10,000 steps in a day when you work from home and you work sitting down. And, at first I thought, I easily get that, but I'm like, no, I actually have to go and get out and do a walk, go, and do all the incidental ones as well, like go and pick up the kids from school, park further away, so I've got to walk a few minutes to get to the school. Like all of that then adds up and you can hit the 10,000, but It's a real hidden trap that we might not even realize that we're doing. And I've definitely found it hard to get to where I'm maybe getting consistent. I'm not expecting to be perfect every day, but say if I go, 70,000 in a week on average. So some days might be more, some days might be less, that's okay. But it's quite hard to get there, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And another big thing too is, you want your mental sharpness to be there for your business too. And, if you're not taking care of your health, you're not going to be as productive as you can be in your business. And maybe you're not making the best decisions in your business. So it really just is like this, it all kind of just connects together, mind and body.
A lot of us know stuff. We know that we should make time and prioritize, but then there seems like there's so much information out there, so many conflicting things. This is something I do. I'll be like, I know, I'll look at this up on the internet and I'll figure out what I'm going to do. So I'm just literally on my phone, probably sitting down, looking something up on the internet. I'm not actually doing it. I'm not taking action. I'm just looking at it. And then by the morning I've forgotten, or, I'm just back into the general day. So what could you share that would be like the ways that we could, I guess, take something simple, like what to focus on, so that we can stop thinking like of all of the things and stop feeling like, I don't even know where to start, or, time, all of those issues that we have. Like, what would you say we should be thinking about if we just want to break it down to something simple?
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously, like I said, a lot goes into this, but really there's 4 non-negotiables that you really need to make the time for if you want your health to give you a good enough foundation to have a good quality of life. And really what this comes down to is good food, purposeful exercise, adequate sleep, and stress management. And a lot of people already do know that, but there's a lot of programs out there where it's just focusing on the fitness and nutrition aspect of things, but sleep and stress are just as important. And a lot of people neglect that. And it's something that we, incorporate into our program as well, because we know just how important that is with progress.
Tell me a bit more about that, because I think those definitely would be 2 things every business owner probably could put their hand up and say, yes, I think I've got too much stress, and yes, I probably don't sleep enough. So how is that impacting us? Like, tell us a bit more about that.
So, and really, like, when we talk about making the time, there's things that you can do to help with this. And one of the things is, and I know this is easier said than done for some people, but try to get done what you can in the beginning of your day so that nothing else can get in the way, as your day goes on. And I know everyone's schedules are different, but if your schedule allows you to, say, mid-morning, get your workout in, get it done over with for the day, and you don't even have to worry about it for the rest of your day. Like, you're good, you're done. That's ideal. And like, I know for me too, if I'm able to do that in like the beginning half of my day, it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the day. And I just, like, my mood is great. My energy is great. My mental sharpness is great, that we kind of, touched on. So I feel like I'm a better worker if I'm able to get that done, earlier on in the day. But another big thing, and, this is one that I pretty much tell every single one of our clients, is to try to schedule out your week ahead of time. I find this huge. I mean, if you have a planner or like a physical calendar, or even using the calendar on your phone, which actually might be helpful because you can actually set reminders when you do set stuff in your calendar on your phone, but scheduling your week out in advance so that you can see, like, okay, where do I have time to get my workout in? Where do I have time to meal prep? Maybe, go to the grocery store but put these things in as if they were appointments with your clients. It's like almost think of it as part as your workday. And that really helps to kind of just like visualize and see your whole week in one glance and plan ahead.
I think that would be really useful. Like I was just thinking, something like meal prepping, you're not going to need a lot of brain power. You literally need to just stand there and do it. So it'd be a really good thing to do when you know that you're typically not on your game with your business stuff, and maybe you're feeling a little bit, tired, or it's that later afternoon and you're starting to be a bit scrambled. Maybe it's like, well, that's a really good time to do meal prep because I don't need to be, totally on my game in terms of what I'm doing with my business, and like looking at the time blocks that you allocate really strategically, which brings me back to the question that I have for you, which was about getting the workout done in the morning. So here's the pitfall that I have, because I will go, I know, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go and do a workout early, and that'll be great. I'll get it out of the way. It's done for the day. Then I get up in the morning and my brain starts like, I'm like, done a few things with the kids. I've got them some lunches and things ready for school, but I've got like ideas and like, I've got to do this. And I've got all this energy and motivation for my business. And so I tend to be like, this is like the best thinking time. This is when my brain is the best. And if I go and work out now, then I'm wasting that time on my workout and not on the business stuff. And so I talk myself out of the workout because I think that I should just get on with it while it's all fresh and while I'm buzzing. So I'll do that and I'll go, I know, I'll do my workout later this afternoon, of course, like we probably all do. And I can be sometimes, like it depends how determined I am. I can be fairly determined with myself. So I'm not always unsuccessful at doing it, but there are definitely days where it just doesn't happen because, like the kids have whatever, it's just been all too chaotic and I just never got there. But what would you say about, if you're someone like me who has that moment, what would be a different way I could look at that morning to be like, well, I believe and I agree and I want to get that workout in. It makes sense. But then I just seem to get in this place where I'm not getting it done. So how would you combat that? How would you get it?
No, and I totally get it because again, like, I've been there where I'm like, I get up in the morning and then I hop on my computer, I check a couple emails and I'm like, okay. And then I start to do something else and I'm like, all right, I'll get to it. Yeah. And then it's like your brain just starts working and it's like, you can't shut it off. So I totally get it. And really like the only thing that works for me is that I have to literally tell myself, and again, it kind of goes back to the planning my week out. I literally have to write down like I have a little notepad that sits right next to my computer every day. And I have to literally write out like in big letters, work out at, 10 a.m. or whatever. And like, I have to literally tell myself that I have to stop what I'm doing. And, no matter what I'm in the middle of. And maybe if you are in the middle of something and you have like all these ideas in your head, like jot them down in your notes quick. Like if you feel like you're going to forget them or something like that, like jot them down quick, write it on your computer. And then, so that way, you can go get your workout in, and it doesn't need to be a full 60-minute workout. A lot of people tend to think they have to have these like crazy long workouts in order to, be successful. And it's about purposeful exercise and making sure that you're doing what's for your goals, but you can break these workouts into smaller chunks throughout the week, so that it fits better into your schedule. And if that means 10 to 15 minute workouts, like maybe 4 to 5 times per week, rather than 1 or 2 days, an hour, it's going to be beneficial and it might work better for your schedule. And then, once you get the workout in and done and you hop back on and you look at your notes to see where you left off, you're like, okay, this is where I left off. I'm going to pick right back up on it. That's typically the only thing that works for me, is literally just being like, work out at 10 a.m., drop what you're doing, do not look at anything else, and just get up and do it.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think what you said before about why even work out, like why make it a priority over the business. And one of the things was, you said, well, actually it does help your brain to be more, what were the words that you used? Like
mental sharpness and just being more productive overall, being able to make good decisions for your business. And like, cause I know even for me, like there's some days where I'm not all there. I've got brain fog, maybe it was like coming off of the weekend and I indulged a little bit on Sunday, and Monday morning, I'm just kind of like a little foggy up there. But it's like, I could totally feel the difference. And like some days I'm just sitting here and I'm like reading the same sentence over and over, and it's just not like connecting. And it's like, oh, well, it makes sense because yesterday, we had like a football party and, I indulged a little bit more than I normally do. And I didn't get a workout in. But, it's life. And it's all about balancing all of that out as well. But really, like, coming back to exercise, what it comes down to really is that there's 3 like universal goals. And a big one that we emphasize in our program is resilience from pain, injury, and frailty later in life. Because, how many elderly people do you know that, I know for me, like my grandma walks around complaining all day about the aches and pains that she has. And, like having trouble getting up and down the stairs, having trouble getting up off the floor. These are things that you want to be able to do as you get older.
Yeah.
And another thing too is like, you kind of like leading into that is having the physical capacity to easily handle the demands of everyday life. Like, are you going to be able to run through an airport with a heavy suitcase in hand, trying to make a flight that you're late for? And, kind of going back to getting up and down off the floor easily, or maybe, as a grandparent, are you able to pick your 30 or 40 pound grandchild up off the floor easily? And, it's little daily things like that people take for granted. But those are the things that you have to think about now, to kind of make those things easier as life goes on.
Oh my goodness, yes. And like something just popped up in my mind. It happened when I was a kid, actually. My dad had a heart attack on the beach, and my mum sent me and my brother to run to the campground office, because it was in the days of no mobile phones, to call an ambulance. And I couldn't run. I got asthma, but I think I was so panicked. I literally was stumbling in the sand. My brother got there first, thank goodness. But I'm like, imagine something happens and you are the person who needs to get there, and you can't move, so you can't get there. Like that, like what a motivator to, really look after yourself, so that you're like, well, I'm the best that I can be. I'm fit, I'm able-bodied, I'm healthy. It's so important. And, I think for me, you touched on it before, and maybe we're about to dive into this. I'm not sure if I'm jumping ahead of your where you wanted to go. But for me, exercise and stress are so linked. And I know that, I'm now in my mid-40s, and hormones and things are different. Running a business, even if it's an easy business, like I work part-time, but I still think it's the mental load of, life, the kids, all the stuff you've got to remember when you've got kids. Oh my God, you just have no idea until you have it. Like, it's not just me. I've got all these other people and I've got to know what they're doing and all the things that they need to keep up with. The mental load is huge. And so I've definitely felt that even though I'm conscious of it, my stress levels are probably higher than what ideally they should be. And I notice things like fat gain around my belly, which is a sign of that, right, of cortisol. And so I know that stress is high. I'm aware of it. And I think that that's like, if we need a reason of why to exercise or why to do things, then I think stress management is probably a big one. But I'm interested to hear what you've got to say about stress, because I was told something that not all exercise helps to reduce stress, or sometimes it can actually have the opposite effect. So can you tell me?
So you are definitely right, or whoever told you that was definitely right.
It might have been you. I can't remember that.
It could have been.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you're doing the proper exercises for your goals. And really, like, the big craze nowadays is these like really high intensity boot camp style classes where they're just, kind of drilling you into the ground, trying to burn as many calories as you can, kind of leaving you in a puddle. Like leaving you in a puddle of sweat. And, and so that way, when you're done, you're like, oh, wow, like that was a great workout. I burned 800 calories and I'm dripping in sweat. Like it had to have been a great workout. But in reality, our bodies can only handle so much stress. And
Mm.
exercise is actually a form of stress. So if you are already stressed and you're putting all that extra stress in your body, it's not going to end well. And that is typically when we tend to see people start to hang on to body fat more, because they're hanging on to it for energy. Kind of their energy is depleted because they're stressed, whether it be from work or their kids or, just life in general. And then they're beating themselves to the ground in these workouts and just kind of digging themselves into a deeper hole. Really what it comes down to is that every workout needs to have specific purpose. You really need to nail down what your specific goals are, and different types of exercise works for different types of goals, which is something that we work with for, every individual client, again, depending on what their goals are. But, you can't just walk into a gym and do whatever you want either and expect the results to
Tick
come.
the box, go, yes,
Yeah,
I've done exercise.
Okay.
Now
I walked in the gym and yep. So yeah, because, and not only that, but you're wasting precious time. If you don't, have that plan and you don't know the reason why, and what the reason why behind what you're doing, it's, we're talking about having the time, but you want to make the most of it.
That is just huge. I really want to just repeat that back a little bit, make sure that I got it, because I think that this is something that is massive for us. Like, I've been someone that always does exercise. I love it. I love how I feel. I get the endorphin from it. But it was frustrating to be in that place where I'm thinking, well, why isn't it working? Why am I putting on weight when I'm eating healthily and I'm exercising? And just what you just shared then is, it's not about doing exercise as a blanket thing. Like, it might be the type of exercise and how you're doing it may need to change depending on your circumstances, your body, what's going on right now with your life, and what you really need to achieve from it. Like, that's just huge, because it's completely flipped my whole perspective on exercise. Like, it's not just the goal to go out and burn as many calories as possible, unless that's the right thing for you. Maybe it is, like, everybody's a little bit different, but wow, that's just so powerful, because that might be the answer as to, why are we not seeing results when we think that we should be, or having that. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's incredible. And the other thing that you mentioned before, feel free to, I know all these things are so linked, exercise, stress, sleep. What would you say is another thing that as business owners, we really need to pay some attention to that we may not be doing right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, they're all so important, but, in my opinion, I think that sleep is really up there at the top of the list. And people like this, I feel like sleep is the one that a lot of people tend to overlook and not necessarily think that it's as important as it is. So, when it comes to sleep, the sleep basics are, you want to plan to be in bed for 8 to 9 hours. And I mean, this is eyes shut, lights off. This isn't in your bed, scrolling through your phone and watching your favorite Netflix show. And, typically we don't really want to be doing those things in bed anyways, but time in bed does not equal time asleep. So that's why you really want to try to be in bed, lights off, eyes shut for 8 to 9 hours in order to get 7 to 8 hours of total sleep. Because a lot of people think like, they lay down and they're like, well, I got in bed and I was in bed for 8 hours, so I must have gotten 8 hours of sleep. But it doesn't work like that. You have to also, take into account the time it took you to fall asleep. If you're tossing and turning during the night, maybe you got up to go to the bathroom, all those little things add up. And I have what's called an Oura ring. So I know there's a lot of different trackers out there now, but this one tracks like a lot in terms of sleep, and it'll tell you exactly the times you woke up and like time it took you to fall asleep. It gives you all that information, which is awesome. So I'll actually use some of that information though for my workout the next day. So it'll tell me like, you're not fully recovered, or like, you didn't really get restful sleep last night, and, maybe you should take a rest or take it easy. So that's why like sleep is so important. And kind of going back to the whole, like, a lot of people doing these workouts and drilling themselves to the ground who are also not getting enough sleep. And again, it's just kind of, you're digging yourself into this hole further and further that's going to be harder to get out of, and just creating all, this extra stress that you really don't need. But, kind of going back to the sleep though. So you also want to try to wake up and go to bed as close to the same time as possible each day, because that's likely going to improve your sleep quality and circadian rhythm. And again, don't think that you're okay on running on 6 hours of sleep, because you're most likely not. And really, it's more than likely affecting your cognitive and physical performance, like we just talked about, your mood, your food choices. So your cravings are going to increase, and you're likely going to crave more like sugar and just be more hungry overall during the day, and not even really realize that it's stemming from, inadequate sleep.
Wow.
And not only that, but inadequate sleep also, you have to think about disease risk too as you get older. I mean, sleep is it's so important, and I can't, stress it enough. And I know it can be really tough for some people. And we work with some clients who have shift work, where they have one day where they're working an overnight shift, and then the next day they're working during the day, and they're sleeping at all these different times. And we work with it's a lot harder for sure if you have shift work, but we kind of work with them to figure out a plan that at least gets them going on the right path, and they're focusing a little bit more on quality of sleep when they can sleep. But yeah, I mean, it's all linked. It's all linked together.
That's amazing, isn't it? Because you don't really think about the fact that having less sleep than being tired makes you want to, you're tired, so your body wants that energy from the food. So then you're making choices and you're hungrier, probably just because it's trying to get energy from somewhere, because you haven't got it within. And I also know, I'm definitely not on my best form when I'm tired. You might be sitting there trying to work, and it's just going to be harder. It's going to take longer to do things. It's going to be harder than when you're well rested, and you probably aren't going to feel like exercising because you're tired. And so it's that spiral. Would you say sleep is the catalyst? If I was thinking before, what is the cause and effect? Is sleep the cause of the good changes, or also of the bad change, with stress, nutrition, exercise? Would sleep be the thing that causes the other effects?
I think it's hard to say, just because how closely linked each aspect of health is. But I mean, I personally do think that sleep is pretty much at the top of the list when it comes to tying all this together, because that's your body's recovery time. It's you need to allow yourself to recover, and especially when you're stressed out and and you're exercising, it's it all ties back to sleep. And if you're not getting adequate sleep, then it's just a number of things that are going to keep going downhill. So I would have to say that sleep, I think, is where everything kind of starts. Typically too, we work with our clients, so a lot of times you'll hear them say, oh, I eat really good and I exercise, why am I not noticing any progress? And then you dive deeper into their sleep and stress, and typically that's where you're going to find the missing piece to the puzzle, is one of those two, but more so sleep, I would say. And a big thing too is that a lot of people think that they are totally fine on 6 hours of sleep, but what in reality most of the time is that they've kind of taken this feeling of feeling run down and accepting that as their normal. So they think that that's normal because they've never felt what it feels like to actually get adequate sleep and feel refreshed, so it's they're oh no, I wake up and I feel fine. But in reality, it's but do you? Because if you actually got adequate sleep, I'm sure you would feel so much different. And then you would really be able to tell the difference.
I think that's really important conversation to have, because there are so many, I think especially in the business world, whether it's entrepreneurs or even people running their own business, there's sort of badge of honor, oh, I run on 4 hours sleep at night or 5 hours sleep. And there are some really well-known, or people someone who people look up to who comes out and says something like that. And you think, well, that's really seeding this expectation or this thing that like, well, if you're going to be successful, then you're someone who can just keep on going, like you're the ever ready bunny with these batteries that just keep charging. Whereas, what I'm hearing is that's just because they've conditioned themselves to get into that state, but they may be sure, they might be awake for all those hours, but are they really effective and productive in them?
Right.
That would be the real question, wouldn't it? We just, from what you're saying is, if we have more sleep, we're actually able to achieve more in the hours that we are awake for. So it's not about the amount of hours, it's probably more about the quality of what you're doing at that time.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. And some people can get away with it for a period of time, but more likely than not, it's going to catch up to you. So
yeah. So I think when people say, what the entrepreneurs say, everybody's got the same 24 hours in a day, it's kind of like that whole shame thing. Well, what are you doing with your time kind of thing? Let's just say, well, some of that we should be sleeping. So at least 8-9 hours is sleep. So we've got less time to be doing with our life. But, something that's really important to me is, well, we shouldn't be thinking that you're spending all of that time on your business, because if you are, then it's probably efficient and not streamlined, and you're probably just working too much for your business. So it's not a fact of needing to sleep less. It's actually a fact of looking at your business and thinking, well, how can I reduce the amount of time I'm spending in my business? What can I make more efficient, effective, and automated so that you can sleep? Because that sleep, like you're saying, is number one priority. I love that. I'm going to make that a better priority. Definitely turn off the Netflix earlier in the evening and go to sleep.
I know, it's so easy to get sucked in.
Oh my goodness. There's one or two that I'm like, I started watching Vikings again, even though I've already seen it. And it's like, you just can't stop. I'm like, I have to just see that a little bit more. And there are some things that I get totally sucked into. So I'm definitely not immune, but I'm loving this. I'm going to be like, right, I'm going to actually set a bedtime. Maybe
I believe you, I get it.
Turn it off.
Yep. It's so important. Because then, it also kind of leads to, depending on what you're watching at that late at night too, it's also your brain is going to, when you're trying to fall asleep, it's going to keep going and going depending on what you were watching. And especially if you're watching like an action or a thriller show, you're likely going to kind of like, your brain's going to keep trying to work and like be elevated, and it's going to be tougher to fall asleep.
Oh, that's actually such a good thing to think about. There was somebody who shared some information about dreaming, and she said, before you go to sleep at night, you ask yourself a question, or maybe, think of something. But imagine if that's the last thing you're thinking about is your show that you're watching. Well, you're just wasting all of that subconscious thought during the night with your dreams on something that's unimportant. Whereas maybe if we're having that little moment before we go to sleep and having some quiet time and thinking about something that we do care about or we want to think more about, then we might have better dreams.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Kayla. Is there any final word of advice or something that you'd love to share or leave with the audience for today?
So I want to kind of leave off on this, like, I guess you could just like this saying that Vin and I always circle back to, and some of our clients are probably like tired of hearing it, but it's just so true. And I feel like everyone can kind of like connect to this, but what's the point of looking good if you don't feel good enough to enjoy it? So, it's like a lot of clients come to us wanting to lose weight, but really like the major emphasis of our program is overall health. So, of course you can lose weight. You can lose weight eating junk food, but how are you going to feel? You know what I mean? It's, again, it kind of comes back to like, if you're not feeling good, is it really worth it? If you lost the weight, but you're groggy every day, your mood is awful and you're tired all the time, you're fatigued, like, is that really worth it? So yeah. So like I said, our program is it's very health focused. We focus a lot on whole foods and, kind of like also teaching the clients the balance between being able to enjoy the foods that you love, but also, showing them what is going to help them get towards their goals and not, get too far away from the goals. So it's really just about, like when you start to focus on your health though, like that, typically weight loss comes as a secondary benefit without you even really noticing. You know what I mean? So focusing on all the different topics that we've kind of touched on today, and we didn't really go too deep into nutrition, but nutrition is like, there's just so much to it. But, it's something that in our program, we are teaching them along the way so that they're able to make these like sustainable habits. And because, there's so many programs out there that is just like, all right, here, follow this 6-week meal plan and, lose 20 pounds, and then you follow it. And then at the end, you're like, okay, now what? Like you weren't, you know what I mean? Like, so we're going to teach you how to build a meal, how to build easy meals, how to choose meals when you're eating at a restaurant. These are all things that you need to learn in order to be able to sustain your progress for the rest of your life, not just short term.
Because otherwise you're reliant on someone's plan. And it's like, if you don't have the plan, then you don't know what you should be doing.
Exactly.
And like you say, there are all these short-term things. Like there's so many crazy ones. I heard of one recently that was a carnivore diet. I just shudder to even think of what that actually means. Like just eating meat or something. But clearly that's not going to be great for your health when you're focusing on something so extreme. And I think, a word that you said there seems like a really important one, is the habits. Like actually it's not about, just following something crazy for an amount of time, but this is actually learning or it's changing your habits. So kind of changing what you're doing so that it becomes normal and that's just what you do and how you enjoy your life as well.
Right. And, making these small changes over time that are actually going to stick and not, losing the weight and then regaining it and kind of going through that whole roller coaster. And, just being able to get the most out of life too. It all kind of comes back to health, and really like, that's kind of how we picked our name, Fitfilled, is like fitness and fulfillment. We want you to get the most, fulfillment out of life and feel good every single day.
Yes. Amazing. So if people are interested in, learning a bit more from you or following along, where can they best find you? Like there's so much in there. I know we've just touched on these topics today and you guys have got so much more to share and to offer. So let us know how they can find out a bit more.
Sure. So we are on Instagram. Our name is at Fitfilled LLC. We are on Facebook, which if you just search Kayla and Vin at Fitfilled LLC, we should pop up with our Facebook group there. Our website is fitfilled.com. And you can also email me at Kayla@fitfilled.com, which I think all of these will probably be in the show notes, right? So people. Okay.
We'll do that. Yeah, great.
And we do have a couple things going on right now. If people are interested, we actually have this like not program. It's like a free, I don't know what you want to call it, like not a program, but it's kind of like a free guide that we call the 6 essential habits. So today we kind of touched on 4 of them, but there's 2 more that you'll learn about in this. And so it kind of just goes in depth about all the 6 essential habits for your health. And that's something else that will be in the show notes as well. And then we're also offering to all of your listeners, if anyone is interested in our 12-week program, we're offering $100 off of the full program.
Oh, wow. That's so generous. Thank you so much. $100 off for a 12-week program. That's amazing. Thank you. I will make sure that all of those links are in the show notes so you can go through, you can download the free guide, you can connect with Kayla on her social media through to the website, and then also how to access that special offer just for listeners of She's the Business. So thank you. That's amazing. Really appreciate your time today, Kayla. This has been such a great chat. I know I've learned a lot. Definitely have some little mental notes there of paying attention to certain things and some good habits that I can start to incorporate into my life that will no doubt help me with everything that I'm trying to do as well. So thank you.
Of course. Yeah, I know it's a lot, but it's all good things.
Well, what is more important than looking after yourself?
Exactly.
We're only here on this earth for a short time. We want to have the best life that we can. And, and looking after yourself is just so important. I think sometimes it's easy to forget, especially, you've got a business, you've got priorities going on there, you've got kids, they become a priority. And I think that we can easily put ourselves on the back seat. So this was such an important conversation to have today. I think we all need to just have that moment to pay attention to our health and what we're actually doing. I know that I walk into the kitchen and grab things out of the fridge without really thinking about it. And I probably need to be a bit more conscious and aware of what I'm doing at times. Yes. Stop sabotaging myself.
Small changes over time. Small changes over time.
Yes. Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Kayla, and we'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good, Jess. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have you ever considered just how much easier your business would feel if you had committed, ready to work with you, prospects dropping into your inbox automatically every month without you having to go looking for them? Well, that could be entirely possible. Imagine no ads, no sleazy cold outreach and DMs, no hours and hours spent scrolling social media looking for leads, and definitely not sitting around waiting for the odd referral to drop into your lap. This is about your marketing strategy that turns you into a magnet for committed, high-value clients who are exactly the right fit to work with you and actually ready to work with you as well. So please come and join me for my very short but jam-packed, full of excitement, live training called The Magnetic Formula. This is the only time I'm running this training this year. Come and join me live. It's happening on September the 7th. Mark your diaries. Come and join me, and I'm going to share with you the proven formula that I used and that I teach my clients as well through my programs on how to become the magnet. So you're drawing in those right people to you, and you don't have to spend your precious time out there hunting down sales. I know we all have time that we'd much rather be spending with our families, for ourselves, doing something else. And that's exactly what being in business is all about. It's about creating the life that you really want. So come and let me show you how. Head to jessicaosborne.com/magnetic or drop into the show notes. I put the link there for you. Come and get yourself on the list. Register before all the space is gone. Seats for this training are limited. It's online, yes, but it has got a limited capacity, so make sure you get your name on the list today so that you don't miss out, and I'll see you there on September the 7th.